Open your Bibles to Revelation chapter 6, verse 3. We're still on the second seal. In this chapter of the seven seals. Verse 3 reads, "And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, 'Come and see.' And there went out another horse, red, and was given to him that sat thereon to take peace." Power is added by the translators. Scratch it out. "And was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword." Was given to him. Now that's a phrase that's used in other places in the Bible. But here in this verse, it signifies that this horse and what it represents, an evil power, is coming on the scene, and God is allowing them to whatever it's referred to here in this verse. The rider of this red horse is given power to take peace from the earth. Now, the earth necessarily in this verse doesn't mean the whole planet. It can. And definitely, as I've said, Islam is going to affect the whole planet. But the context here is the Middle East area, especially the nations surrounding Israel. Power was given that they should kill one another. Not power was given. They were allowed to get power that they should kill one another under the influence of and in the name of Allah. Which means that internal strife or civil war would take place. That's what I mean, and I already broke it down and what body of people we're even actually talking about also in previous teachings. If you haven't listened to that, or if you don't remember, you can go back to the Last Day series, archive messages, and re-listen to those messages. Now, this red horse is just a continuation. This red horse is a war horse. It's a horse that's going to spill blood. That's the intention of the rider of the horse. Now, we already covered in the previous verses of the first seal that seal was just, as we could look back now, identifying Muhammad and the system of evil that he would present and leave behind, that kicks off this beast's destruction. The horses as the players in the final seventh and eighth beast, destruction, warpath that it would be on to have everyone bow down and worship Allah. And because it's the first seal, doesn't mean the first seal closes. No, because I already instructed on this also what this means. It's just a continuation. When we go from the first beast to the second beast, it doesn't mean the first beast and what it represented closes down and gets tucked away. No. Islam, the Koran, Muhammad, all are introduced. And now it goes to another level because another horse comes on the scene. And this horse, I haven't identified this rider yet, so, and I'm not going to be able to do that tonight. But the thing is, I will, but not tonight. But one thing I want to remind us is that this horse represents war, bloodshed, strife, civil war amongst the Middle Eastern countries that would be involved in introducing Islam, and then eventually they would have a rift between who their leader is going to be and which system of Islam they should follow. To make it really summarized, there would be a division amongst who should be Muhammad's successor once Muhammad passed away and no longer was on the scene. And that caused a bunch of strife within the surrounding people of the area that were, and also the individuals that were close to Muhammad, that wanted the leadership role. And they would fight over that leadership role, who would get the leadership role and who would not. And sometimes it took war amongst themselves to get to the position where a dominant player would come on the scene, or was already on the scene, and took over and gained power by having a more stronger force, a better army, and more people behind them to influence and to carry on and forwarding forward to other nations. The seventh and eighth beast, I don't even want to say religion, because it's not a religion, and that is Islam. Now, Islam is a religion of war. I say religion loosely. The Koran is a book of war. You can write these three things down. Islam is a religion of war, started by Muhammad, altering a moon god belief system into his own supposedly insight, because he got visited by angel to give him the information for these last days and what he should establish and what people should follow. Either he was a liar, a nut, or demon possessed. All three is fine with me, with the emphasis on demon possessed. Islam is a religion of war, and the second horseman gets that kick-started into hyperdrive, if you want to call it, and the spreading of Islam took place under the second rider. And it didn't conclude with the second rider. It just means now war also in bloodshed was introduced in a greater sense than even what Muhammad did eventually when he turned, after a little over a decade, when he was getting impatient that he didn't have more followers and more converts. He finally took matters in his own hands. But even what he did was minor compared to what others would do after his passing, and it all came about through bloodshed and war. So Islam is a religion of war. The Quran, no matter how you slice it, and I'll point it out tonight, is a book of war. And Allah is the God of war. So write those three things down. Islam is a religion of war, the Quran is a book of war, and Allah is a God of war. You got it? Now let me read you something. Islam is a declaration of war against infidels. Islam is an ideology of war. The Quran obviously is a book of war. Allah is the anti-God and is a God of war. This war is permanent until all the infidels have converted, paid a submission tax, or have been murdered. This is the law of Allah as set down in the Quran. And that's what they believe, friends. Whether they are hardcore or a moderate. Don't let that moderacy stuff fool you. Infidels can be murdered by Muslims as a law of Allah. Not only can they all be murdered, but the wives and daughters of the murdered infidels can be taken as booty, raped, and then sold as slaves. That's still happening today. You follow Better the Times. We put up articles somewhat like that on occasion. If you haven't been following Better the Times basically, you go to Facebook, look up Better the Times, or I think there's a link from our website at teachingfaith.com, and it keeps you abreast of what's happening in the seventh, eighth beast realm. Their sons can be sold into slavery. If there's any doubt as to the boy's age of puberty, Muslims can pull down their pants and inspect their genital areas for hairs. Even the slightest sign of hair growth means that these young men can be taken and beheaded. Beheaded. As a law of Allah, Muslims can then loot and pillage the property of the murdered infidels It must share the booty obtained from the sale of boys and women and the proceeds of looting. Islam, remember, the religion of war, is evil. Started by a demon-possessed evil individual that God prophesied in his book that would come on the scene in the last days, and it's still here today, and we're living in the last of the last days, to carry out that evil even to this day. In fact, it's going to intensify. You think it's bad now, it's even going to intensify even more, my friends. Let me continue reading. By now, any sane human being of the 21st century should realize that the religion of Islam is the main source of Islamic terrorism happening today around the world. But sadly, majority of gullible people, Muslims and non-Muslims, tend to ask questions. Does Islam have anything to do with terrorism? More precisely, does the Quran in any way responsible for Islamic terrorism or Islamic suicide bombings? You would be surprised how many people you could go up to and say, do you think the Quran glorifies or suggests the murdering of infidels or the carrying out of terrorism to bring people in a state of mind that they fear if they don't respond positive to what they're asking you to bend to and bow down and worship, that you might even be considered an infidel, and God knows what would happen to you afterwards, depending on where you live in this world. More precisely, is the Quran in any way responsible for Islamic terrorism or Islamic suicide bombings? Some hypocritical Western educated so-called moderate Muslims have now started to blame hadiths only for Islamic terrorism suicide bombings, and they are hypocritically claiming that the Quran is totally innocent of this crime. Oh, how untrue. These neo-Islamists also claim that for all these Islamic suicide bombings and Islamic terrorism, it is the Sunnah, or traditions left by the Prophet Muhammad, which should be blamed, and not the Holy Quran. There's nothing holy about it. In this faulty or erroneous line of thinking, they got their illusionary vision that if hadiths could be dumped, then Islam will be very peaceful and innocent. Islam is a cultic religion by nature. I say religion loosely. The very theme of Islam is Allah is the sole creator of everything on heaven and earth, and Muslims are his only legitimate and righteous people. All other peoples, whether Jews, Christians, Hindus, etc., are simply infidels and hated by Allah. A Muslim is a person who gets his or her life inspiration primarily from the Quran, and secondarily from the Hadiths or the Sunnahs. The devout Muslims believe that all life solutions are contained in the Holy Quran, and every good Muslim does believe in his heart that the Quran is the immutable divine words of Allah, infallible, unchangeable, eternal book of Allah, and they must follow this Quran word by word without question. Following this line of thinking, the Muslims believe that anyone who does not agree with them is kafir, K-A-F-F-I-R, an enemy of Islam, hence the enemy of Allah. A Muslim must oppose his or her enemy and kill him or her by any means whenever the opportunity arises. Historically, Muslims in Arabia always consider their political enemies / rivals as filthy, unclean, non-believers, and deserves death, and always wanted to eliminate them by force. They have also considered a blessed or holy thing to kill their enemy, which will please Allah, and consequently they will be rewarded in this life and hereafter. If we study early Islamic history, the reigns of most Islamic caliphs, we can readily learn that there had been always bloody disputes amongst various Muslim political groups in which tens of thousands of people were slaughtered in the name of their religion. That goes all the way back to the day shortly after Muhammad's death. In these political disputes, always one group was calling another group kafirs, or enemy of Allah. They try to justify killing their rivals by Islamic dictums. Even today, the same patterns of religious sectarian killings are going on in Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and many other Islamic nations. As always, each party calls them the party of Allah. An opposite party is the party of kafirs, who should be killed. In these sectarian killings, Muslims always get their inspiration primarily from the Quranic dictums supported by hadiths. They never get inspiration from anything which is not in the Quran, or they never kill anybody being inspired only from hadiths. Because Muslims always consider the Quran as the nucleus of their faith, and inspiration and hadiths are used only to support Quranic dictums. Islamic terrorists do kill people by their Islamic fanatical zeal, which is the prime source of motivation in their killing spree. And these inspirations always come from the Holy Quran. I almost can't say that holy part. So I'll try not to say it any longer. I'll just say Quran. Now, question is, does the Quran contain such verses which can easily inspire and incite devout Muslims to kill people with impunity? Answer is there are plenty of such inciting or inspiring Quranic verses which can turn any simple, innocent-minded, devout Muslims into killing monsters. In fact, Quran is replete with such horrific, inciting dictums throughout the pages of the Quran. The Quran repeatedly promised celestial handsome rewards for those who can kill kafirs, enemy of Allah and His Messenger, and dreadful punishings, hellfire, for those who refuse to kill kafirs. So either you kill or be punished. The Quran also incites followers to sacrifice their lives in order to kill kafirs in exchange for much better and lucrative afterlife. In this line, just one Quranic verse, it happens to be in the 9th chapter, 111th verse, kind of 9:111, is most attractive to those jihadis who are desperately eager to achieve heavenly reward of 72 virgins. Here is the masterpiece from the Holy Quran. Oh, there I go. Go ahead. Just say Quran. Quran 9:111. Allah hath purchased of the believers their persons, lives that is, and their goods. For theirs in return is the garden of paradise. They fight in His cause and slay and are slain, a promise binding on Him in truth through the law, the gospel, and the Quran. In addition, a strong support and explanation to verse 9:111 was given by merciful Allah by the following in the Quran, chapter 4, 74th verse. Let those fight in the cause of Allah who sell the life of this world for the hereafter. To him who fighteth in the cause of Allah, whether he is slain or gets victory, that's killed or be killed, soon shall we give him a reward of great value. So that's their justification, friends. In the Quran, 4th chapter 95th verse, not equal are those believers who sit at home is added, and receive no hurt, and those who strive and fight in the cause of Allah with their goods and their persons. Allah had granted a great hire to those who strive and fight with their goods and persons, those who will sacrifice both their life and wealth. Then to those who sit, unto all hath Allah promised good, but those who strive and fight hath He distinguished above those who sit by a special reward. In the Quran, chapter 3, 169, reads, Think not of those who are slain in Allah's way as dead. Nay, they live, finding their sustenance in the presence of their Lord. Here Allah is saying that those jihadis who die or commit suicide is not dead, but he will be living with Allah. Now, I do not believe that anybody can have the slightest doubt that the above clear invitations from Allah for the ardent fanatical believers can very easily convince the blind, puka or pure Muslims to become a time bomb, suicidal in order to kill infidels or the kafirs for the cause of Allah. The verses that I read to you in chapter 9, chapter 3, and chapter 4 are clearly ordering devout Muslims to kill and be killed. That is, Allah is teaching Muslims to sacrifice their own lives to commit suicide in His cause, Allah's cause, in order to kill infidels, enemies of Allah. And that was their philosophy. That was their main objective as they would spread this poison in those early days. And many of those who were involved in it were also in it for the booty, the spoils of war, for slaves, for sex slaves. All in the name of Allah. This single verse in 9:111 very precisely justifies suicide bombing, the most lethal, most terrifying, most inhuman, most successful weapon majority Islamic terrorists are using today to kill Allah's enemies. It is the perfect example that any of the suicidal method of Allah has prescribed for devout Muslims. In the verse above, the 9:111, Islamic Allah clearly saying that He, Allah that is, purchased life and property of believers in exchange of lustful and unimaginable lucrative heavenly pleasures for those who will die or commit suicide for the cause, killing kuffars of Allah. After this, Muslims, those who are followers of the Koran, do not need any more killing instructions for their motivation to kill kafirs or infidels. For good reason, we can sum up that the Islamic God, which is Allah, is the most dangerous deity, having unlimited, vengeful, cruel, intolerant, intimidating, and war-loving, blood-thirsty, divine identity. War-loving, blood-thirsty, divine identity. That's the second horseman right there, in a nutshell. But this is not all. Quran is loaded with numerous killing verses ordering the followers to carry out endless killings of unbelievers until only Muslims remain to inhabit the earth owned by the Islamic Allah. Want more examples? Quran chapter 8, verse 39. And fight them on, or continue that war, until there is no more tumult or oppression, and there prevail justice and faith in Allah altogether and everywhere. Quran 9:29. Fight those who believe neither in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which had been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, that which they think is Islam, even if they are of the people of the book, Christians and Jews, until they pay the tax with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Quran chapter 3:85. If anyone desires a religion other than Islam and does not submit to Allah, never will he be accepted of him, and in the hereafter he will be in the ranks of those who have lost all spiritual good. In Quran chapter 9, verse 39, unless ye go forth for jihad, he will punish you with a grievous penalty and put others in your place. But him ye would not harm in the least. So there's hatred by Allah, if you think about it, to those who are reluctant to join his Islamic jihad. Now, isn't that the total opposite of Jesus Christ? If Jesus Christ was like Allah, think about it. You think Allah would have came and sacrificed himself when he knew most would reject him? You think Allah, if it was real, the real, true, the God, would have sacrificed, say he himself, to save anyone? To spill his blood? To save anyone? No. Let me tell you right now. Allah might be reluctant Allah's hatred to those who are reluctant to join Islam is obviously obvious when you analyze Islamic belief systems and what they believe in. But the thing is, Christ died knowing that most hated him. If you really think about it, very few loved the Lord Jesus Christ when he walked this planet. He died anyway. That's amazing to me. That is such... I can't even fathom, as a human being, myself or anyone else, would do such a thing. To leave the glory of heaven. He could have started all over. He could have recreated everything if he wanted to. But he kept his word. And he rescued. God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son. Not God so loved just Christians that he sent his only begotten Son. God so loved the world, which also includes Muslims. Let me continue. Quran chapter 9 verse 73. O prophet, strive hard against the unbelievers and the hypocrites and be firm against them. Their abode is hell, an evil refuge indeed. Quran 8:65. O apostle, rouse the believers to fight. If there are 20 amongst you, patient and persevering, they will vanquish 200. If 100, they will vanquish 1,000 of the unbelievers. Quran 8:66. If there are 100 of you, patient and persevering, they will vanquish 200. And if 1,000, they will vanquish 2,000. With the leave of Allah. This is actually that verse that was written in Muhammad Atta, the leader of 9/11 and that tragedy. Quran 4:78. Where ye are, death will find you, even if ye are in towers, built up strong and tall. Maybe they got their inspiration to go after the Twin Towers with that verse. Quran 2:193. And fight them until there is no more tumult or oppression. Quran 2:216. Fighting is prescribed for you, and ye dislike it. But it is possible that ye dislike a thing which is good for you. Quran 5:33. The punishment of those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive with might and main for mischief through the land is execution or crucifixion or the cutting off hands and feet from opposite sides or exile of the land. That is their disgrace in this world, and a heavy punishment is theirs in the hereafter. Yeah, that's a religion of peace for you. Quran 4:89. They but wish that ye should reject faith as they do, and thus be on the same footing as they. But take not friends from their ranks until they flee in the way of Allah for what is forbidden. But if they turn renegades, change to other religions, seize them and kill them wherever ye find them. And in any case, take no friends or helpers from their ranks. Punishment is necessary for the apostates. Quran 9, verse 5. But when the forbidden months are past, then fight and slay the pagans wherever ye find them, and seize them, beleaguer them, and lie in wait for them in every stratagem. Quran 9:28. O ye who believe, truly the pagans are unclean, so let them not, after this year of theirs, approach the sacred mosque. Quran 8:67. It is not fitting for an apostle that he should have prisoners of war until he thoroughly subdued the land. Here Allah is assisting Prophet to kill all the prisoners and should not keep any surrendering prisoners alive. Quran 8:17. It is not ye who slew them, it is God. When thou threwest a handful of dust, it was not thy act, but God's. And this verse was used to basically justify the killings of surrendered soldiers because it was the wish of Allah. Quran 9:23. You might be getting tired of hearing all these verses from the Quran. I'm almost done. But it needs to be laid down. So you can understand that the Quran is a book of war. Allah is a God of war. Islam is about war. O ye believe, take not for your protectors your fathers and your brothers if they love infidelity above faith. If any of you do so, they do wrong. So the Quran is asking that you even go against your own father and your brothers for the sake of Allah. Quran 3:28. Let not the believers take for friends or helpers unbelievers rather than believers. If any do that, in nothing will there be help from Allah. Quran 5:45. We ordained therein for them life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth, and wounds equal for equal. 47:4. Therefore when ye meet the unbelievers in fight, strike off their heads at length. Then when you have made wide slaughter among them, carefully tie up the remaining captives thereafter, either generosity or ransom, until the war lays down its burdens. 9:123. O ye who believe, murder those of the disbelievers and let them find harshness in you. 2:191. Kill them wherever you find them and drive them out from wherever they drove you out. That's their justification to try to go back into some areas that they once controlled, including many parts of Europe. Koran 8:12. Remember that thy Lord inspired the angels with the message, I am with you. Give firmness to the believers. I will instill terror into their hearts of the unbelievers. Smite ye above their necks and smite all their fingertips off. That's the merciful Allah for you. The Quran is full of heinous, inhuman, and utterly dreadful, cruel verses. The main themes of Quranic or scriptural instruction are pursuance by advice, then by intimidation, coercion, then by force, killing, fighting, maiming, etc. And in return, plenty of heavenly reward from Allah. We can find hundreds of cruel, hateful, and utterly inhuman verses throughout the Quran. The above Quranic scriptures incite early Muslim jihadis of the 7th century period to kill thousands of non-Muslims and other infidels. That's an understatement. During the early period of Islam, especially during Islamic expeditions by the Prophet Muhammad himself while he was in Medina, thousands of infidels were brutally killed and beheaded by the jihadis. These same Quranic verses are still inciting devout, fanatical Muslims. I could go on, but now, does it take a rocket science to understand the source of fanatical will of those September 11th terrorists? Does it ring the bell from where these Islamic terrorists all over the world are getting their inspiration and hope? Will our Islamists still say Islam is a religion of peace, or that the Quran is full of kind and compassionate advices? Quran tells us not to make their friendship with Jews and Christians. Fight them until they pay the tax, the penalty tax for the non-Muslims living under Islamic rules with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Kill the disbelievers wherever we find them. Murder them and treat them harshly. Fight and slay the pagans. Seize them, beleaguer them, and lie in wait for them in every stratagem. Kill and be killed. Commit suicide to kill kafirs. However, Quran is a holy book, scratch holy, which is replete with contradictions, also contains rare deceptive verses like the following. Quran 4:29-30. O ye who believe, eat not up your property among yourselves in vanities, but let there be amongst you traffic and trade by mutual goodwill, nor kill or destroy yourselves, for verily Allah hath been to you most merciful. If any do that an injustice, soon shall we cast them into the fire, and easy it is for Allah. Quran 5:32. On that account we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone slew a person, unless it be for the murder or for the spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he slew the whole people. And if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of the whole people. Then although there came to them our messengers with clear signs, yet even after that, many of them continued to commit excesses in the land. Hypocritical Islamists try to use these verses, only 2 verses above, to make an excuse that Allah forbade suicidal killing for Muslims, or killing people. Truly, these verses, 4, chapter 29, 30th verse, above only talk about self-destruction, suicide for no real purpose other than self-depression or pains, which sometimes human prefers to end his life in order to get relief from pains. This kind of self-killing is prohibited by any religion, society, or creeds, and is called self-destruction, suicide, without having any ulterior motive or purpose. But this universal suicide has nothing to do with Allah's call of killed and be killed, with the divine purpose to kill infidels of serving Allah. As the verse has clearly stated in the verse 5:32 is purely deceptive verse used by most hypocrites of Islam to fool the Westerners. This verse was meant to describe historical aspects of Israelites and nothing to do with the Muslims, nor does this verse do any abrogation of the hundreds of killing verses came afterwards while in Medina to cite random killings, jihad of any unbelievers by Allah's soldiers called Muslims. In short, Quran can be named undoubtedly as a supreme manual of intimidation, vengeance, terror, violence, and war against non-Muslims. That's enough of this. I repeat, it's the God of war. It's a false god of war. Let's put it that way. I like that better. It's not a guide or a gospel of peace. It's an evil book of instruction to how to eliminate life if people don't converse. And if you don't eliminate their life, you take what they have and you bring them under submission. I think in these last days, that latter part will be less acceptable. They want blood. This red horse represents the flowing of blood that comes from war, that comes from a system that produced jihadi individuals that want nothing more than everyone bow down to Allah. And if they don't do that, the only acceptable outcome was to them in this day is to eliminate them. Eliminate them. The war horse is running wild. It began many centuries ago. The first horse introduced the system. The second horse would take it into overdrive or hyperdrive and spread the poison and cause many blood killing events. I wanted to say something else, but I'm not going to say it. That would and still today have the final intention of everyone bowing down to this beast, Allah. Now, and there was another horse. So a particular time would come on the scene when this red horse would be spilling this blood through war, and this war would take place to take peace from the region and a certain people, a body of people like-minded but different in their beliefs of who they should follow, and that fits into they shall kill one another, and there was given unto them or him a great sword. That means many would die. Their life would come to an end over this god of war, this false god of war, Allah. And their playbook is the Koran. They justify all their actions because of the Koran, the Hadiths, the Sunnahs. All of it is how they justify their bloodshed. How they justify why everyone has to bow down to Allah or submit to fellow Muslims to have rule over them and control them. That's it in a nutshell, friends. The first horse is still riding because the belief that Muhammad was a messenger of God is more accepted today than it was even back then. The belief that he got inspiration through an angel to give him instruction on what exactly, how he should pattern his life and other people's lives, was accomplished. So Muhammad came on the scene. The Quran shortly after was put together with other documents. A system was developed, a belief system how people should live and follow Allah was brought on the scene and developed, and a way of distribution was also developed. That's what this first and second horse represent. And that way of distribution was war, for the most part, and bloodshed, for the most part. Now, who is this second rider? Who is the second rider? That's what we have to look at still. Now, if you're interested, I want to hear from you. As we start getting closer, getting to the third seal, but we need to find out who the second rider is. And there are different opinions on it. I'll give you mine. And to tell you the truth, there's several options. And it really doesn't matter which option you choose, because the several options that are out there all achieve the same objective. But I have an opinion about it, and you will hear about it, who I think, by looking at secular history, who this second horseman was. If you're interested, I want to hear from you. Play the song.